Hi, this is Henk, and welcome to another edition of the Skull Sessions. And today, my guest is TJ Payne. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
All right, man. So let's talk about what you got going on.
My name's TJ Payne. I'm a horror author. I wrote three horror books, self-published them all back in 2018, 2019, 2020. And the books were In My Father's Basement, Intercepts, and The Venue. But I was originally a screenwriter by trade. And so after I self-published those books, my screenwriting career started doing well, and I started working in film and TV. And so that took me away from the books for a long time. And so they've just kind of kept living. They were on Amazon and they just kept being discovered. More and more people found them. And eventually, traditional publishers took notice. And so Penguin Random House is now re releasing Intercepts on May 5th. They've bought my next book off me, so now I'm finally pivoting back to my true love, which is writing books. I'm pivoting away from the Hollywood stuff for a little bit. And so I just wanna thank you for having me on. Let me kind of introduce myself to the horror world now that I've been away for a bit.
Yeah, of course. So what did you find the big difference between screenwriting and novel writing? Because I mean, you're writing stories regardless, but I would imagine now you have like way more control over exactly what you want to do, as opposed to like trying to bring somebody's vision to life.
That's exactly it. That's where like film and TV writing is incredibly fun. Very satisfying. I've worked with wonderful people. If something goes through production, you're bringing 200 artists together from all the different departments and the actors, and everyone's working together toward this one vision. But often, as a mid-level writer myself, that vision is usually the showrunners. It's not my vision. And so that's where books are so much more satisfying in many ways, is it is this unfiltered, this is the writer to the audience directly. And it's just a far more like a very satisfying process in that way. And I think the biggest thing I've learned is how much of film and TV writing is budget dependent. And you're always having to make choices based on the money. You can't have this big crowd scene because it's too expensive. You can't do it in this location. You can't have your character's journey into hell because that's all VFX. And so
There's
you're
probably also way too many cooks in the pot too. Like, everybody wants to put stuff in, and some people's ideas just aren't that good.
100%. And there's always, in the film TV world, there's always the sort of hanger-ons who don't have an artistic vision themselves, but have found a way to sort of connive their way into the decision-making process. And that's always frustrating. And there are certainly notes that can make a project worse.
I've also seen, and this is the last thing I'll say because I wanted to be on you, not on the industry. But I noticed a lot of like authors who've transitioned over to doing their stories, like producing them as like they've had more success with streaming services, but like movies especially, like you get all the sorts of like budget constraints and like all the Hollywood people come in going, okay, you might be a good writer, but let me tell you what sells, and then they'll just butcher the story. So like I remember like I like a lot of Frank Miller stuff, and he wrote some of the early Batman stuff, and they said, oh well, the Dark Knight is blowing up big, so why don't you write the sequel to RoboCop? So he wrote it, and then they said, okay, well, great story, but you don't know Hollywood. So then they hired someone else to rewrite it. And then they screened that and they're like, oh, everyone said it was horrible. Let's go back to Frank. Hey, Frank, can you rewrite it again, but taking into consideration some of the other writers' concepts? He's like, no, go fuck yourself. So if you watch that movie, there are three writers. And I know a lot of people have had, those considerations, come up. Some people like refuse to even have it made as a movie. What was something along those lines your problem?
It's a frustration because you are getting notes. Like that is the thing about being a screenwriter in Hollywood is that it is not a screenwriter business necessarily. You are kind of brought on to bring often the producer's vision to life or the director's vision to life. And they say that they want your voice and your vision, but often you're more of a hired gun. And so it's hard. Like the RoboCop story is I think very common of bringing a lot of people in and hoping that one of them can just sort of magically hit the markers that the producer has in their mind that they are themselves just guessing what the audience is going to respond to. And I think that's one of the frustrations with Hollywood is that for the most part it is everyone really trying to make educated guesses on what people are going to respond to. And because the cost of getting something through production is so massive, there's a lot of risk involved. Whereas with books, the it costs a lot to get a book out there, but ultimately it doesn't, you're not bringing together an entire crew to make it happen. So you can take bigger risks in books that perhaps, maybe are not going to connect with an audience. But then when something does, I think it connects in this far deeper way. And so that's why I think it's just sometimes books can be far more satisfying.
This is the last thing I'll say about it because I don't want to concentrate on like a career that's not yours anymore. But like not your central career. But like I kind of think that they're almost two different things. So if you write a story to be a movie, like a Tarantino, plot, it's like it works for that genre because it's made for that genre. Translating doesn't always come across. And when people like I know Stephen King was like, a little bit upset about the way Kubrick did The Shining. So I like both, but Kubrick is a master. So I don't expect Kubrick's work to be exactly like a crystal copy of Stephen King's work. So he did his thing, Stephen King has his thing. I just view them as like two different interpretations of the same thing.
Yep. And the thing is, the Kubrick is also he was enough of a genius that he had the freedom to make the decisions he made to translate that work to the screen, which I don't think uh there's a lot more constraints placed on other directors that don't have that kind of Kubrick freedom. And so that's why I think The Shining ended up being this really cool thing where there are these two versions that have the same DNA but sort of diverge, and the two creators don't even agree on it.
Yeah,
But as
no, that's a good
audiences, we
way
can
of
all
looking
be
at
like,
it.
"This is beautiful. We have two."
Yeah, no, it's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, with the same DNA. But all right, so let's talk about what you got going on. So you have a couple books out, or and you're having them all re-released. Is that what's going on, or
So I
you have a
have
new work?
I have three self-published books, or three books that were self-published, and by far, Intercepts was the one that connected with audiences the most. And so that is the one that Penguin Random House discovered, and they were like, we want to get this out to a wider audience. We want to get it into bookstores, places that you couldn't reach with just Amazon. And so they've bought the rights to republish it, and then we set the rights up internationally as well. So now it's going to be translated into other languages, and that's just for that one book. And then as part of the deal, I'm writing another book, not in the same universe, just a different horror book. This one's going to be more of a an exorcism kind of story, and that's going to be coming out hopefully next year. So this is it's been a fun opportunity where I'm being able to pivot back into the book world after being absent from it for about 6 years.
Okay. Um, some people like to do that kind of comic book sell where it's like all in the same universe continuity, and some people do it as like individual stories that don't link up. And some people do that kind of Stephen King thing where some link up, some don't. How do you gotta live out?
I One of the reasons I really love horror is the diversity of subgenre in it. Horror is such like a broad term. And what I've really liked, I like switching gears between stories because I feel it keeps me fresher as a writer, and then I'm not just sort of taking what worked previously. I get to grow. And so all of my books not only aren't in the same universe, they're standalones, but they're not even in the same subgenres of horror. And that's been really super fun for me. My first book, In My Father's Basement, is it's a serial killer thriller. It's about a guy who discovers that his dad has just been arrested for being a serial killer, and so he goes to visit his dad on death row to interview him.
Oh, but he has no idea, so it's just like a surprise him.
Just like turns on the news one day at work and everyone is watching it, and oh my God, that is my dad who has just been arrested with all of these bodies in his basement.
Like,
And
oh my God, it's John Wayne Gacy, and I thought he was just like the nice guy. Yeah,
yep. And it's very like so that first book is very much it is purposely designed with kind of a true crime feel to it, that you would associate it with a John Wayne Gacy, with a BTK, all these guys who had those families
right.
that did discover that. And so that's what that first book was. And then Intercepts is far more of a sci-fi horror. It's about a government torture facility where people are kept in extreme sensory deprivation until they go violently insane, but their minds, if properly tuned, can intercept the senses of anyone in the world. So if you wanted to see what a cartel leader is seeing or what a terrorist is seeing, then you could do this painful process for these inmates and they could then intercept those people's minds. And the story itself is about the supervisor of this facility who's just sort of a, following orders kind of guy who then finds out that his daughter is having these terrifying visions and realizes that the inmates of his facility have intercepted her mind and are torturing her to get to him.
Oh
And
wow,
so
yeah. Do you have any sort of like outer space alien worlds involved, or is it you're saying it's sci-fi like this in advanced technology?
advanced technology, very much that. I do a lot of nonfiction reading. That's a lot of my like sort of consumption of the written word is with nonfiction. I just find these topics that interest me, and I just go to the library and check out every book I can. And so Intercepts came from just reading books about the NSA, the CIA's MK Ultra experiments, the government nuclear program and the bureaucracy and how it sort of
Oh, yeah,
cracks under
there are a
this.
lot. I love stories like that. So I've kind of done like a deep dive down the rabbit hole, and you would, I don't know if you'd be impressed or you'd be horrified or what, but like there are so many out there.
Yep. Like that's the thing. That's why I kind of love nonfiction is when you're writing fiction, the real world has created enough horror that there's not a whole lot I need to invent. I just need to
Right.
find it and then find a way to tap into it from a character standpoint. Uh, and so, yeah, like things that are out there are messed up. And so that's the basis of Intercepts is that sort of secret program kind of story.
So you said sci-fi? Is it kind of like sci-fi in the way like Minority Report or something like that is sci-fi? So it's like kind of like a futuristic evolution of what's on Earth and not going beyond this planet.
Yeah, that very like 5 minutes in the future kind of sci-fi of this is, probably happening at a top secret, slightly futuristic facility of in our world. So it's very much based in our world, no flying cars or anything. It's our time period and just where the technology might possibly be
Where are our
is
flying cars? I used to see in the Jetsons. I'm like, we should have flying cars, but now. But I think it was Elon Musk who was explaining like what a bad idea flying cars would actually be. You know, like as far as like coordinating the routes and so you didn't drop into other cars and yeah. So it sounds cool when it's like Jetsons, but you know, what if all of a sudden your engine stops working and you drop on the guy below you or something? Yeah, there's a lot that could go wrong.
I
That
know
would
no
probably
one.
be.
People have enough trouble driving in 2 dimensions. I can't imagine driving in three.
Yeah. I think this was actually kind of a cool concept. He said actually probably the best would be like tunnel underground and travel that way. So like but then like if you fall down you're in the bottom of a tunnel. It's not like you're dropping in the sky like killing tons of people. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But all right, man, so how much work do you have out now?
So I have those 3 books, and then a lot of my work has been in TV. So I've been on. I've sold a few feature films, but they haven't been made yet, which is kind of par for the course in Hollywood. They buy a lot, but they don't make much.
Yeah, I've heard
Uh,
that.
and in TV, I've had a handful of shows that I've written on. Under the Bridge, which was a true crime starring Lily Gladstone a few years ago. And then I have 2 shows that are coming out this year. The Burrows on Netflix. It's very much it's just a fun kind of horror-y show, and I can't speak too much about it because it hasn't come out yet. And Little House on the Prairie, which is very much not my usual brand, but I had a fantastic time writing it. I was on set as one of the writers and got to experience that whole just the machine of making TV and that how big and complicated the whole process is. So I got to experience that. And it's a
Well,
very sweet, heartwarming show. Again, don't expect a weird horror twist to come from it. But I had a great time.
well, I find it if you do a good take on something, it doesn't have to be like your like known genre. Like Richard Matheson did a Western. And I'm like, well, I really like I Am Legend, Hell House, and your Serve Echoes. Like he wrote all this great stuff. I'm like, I'll try him. It was good. I mean, there's no like zombie creatures coming up. It was good.
The creator and showrunner of Little House on the Prairie, her name is Rebecca Sonnenschein, and she cut her teeth as a writer on Vampire Diaries, and then really hit the next level as a writer, executive producer on The Boys. And so
Which is an awesome show, by the way.
it is. And so this was a detour for her too. And I think in our when we met and I interviewed for the job, this is what we really connected on was that the way that using horror was our way to sort of examine humanity in
Right.
our previous work. And we were taking that and carrying it into, a very earnest, heartwarming show like Little House.
Yeah, I think the best stuff kind of examines stuff without being like over the top and preachy. So it's not like, like pounding your head with an agenda, but like it kind of tells you something.
I think I 100% agree that the best art is the one that speaks on this deeper level of like what it means to be human. And
Yeah.
if it does that well, it will hopefully be both like a part of its time, but also timeless in its themes. And I've always felt that horror is one of just the best genres for that because it is so transformational for the characters because it's such you put them through that meat grinder, that ringer, and you see what they come out as is the other on the other side. And I think that is just such a such a core part of any art. And when you can take that and translate it then to something that doesn't have horror, I think it can still stick and work.
Yeah, no, I think adding a little bit of like a darker tone and horror to stuff like elevates everything. And I think the best stuff is when it's like something that you wouldn't necessarily think of. Like I don't know if you saw the movie Bone Tomahawk. But it's like it's a western, but it's like a dark western. So it's a horror movie, but it's a western. So stuff like that, like I think really like bridges the gap and like accomplishes more than you would think it would. But all right, so let's get back to you for a minute. Do you have a website where people can find your stuff and get stuff signed?
I'm on social media. I've started it up now that I have the book coming out. I've been pretty quiet for a while, but now I'm starting to come out of my shell a bit. So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. And if you just look for tj.payne.author, You'll find me. Payne is spelled Payne. 'Cause I know people might try to spell it the other way. And yeah, so just search for that, and you'll find me on any of those channels.
Okay, and I know they're reissuing some of your stuff. Do you have a new thing coming out right now?
So Intercepts is going to be the reissue in May, and then I'm working on another book. It'll probably be next year. But that one's going to be this fun. It's going to be my take on like a very modern exorcist story. And hopefully that comes out next year, and then hopefully I'll just start this cycle of getting my goal is a book out a year, and starting now, really.
Yeah, I find like I took a bunch of seminars about like Stephen King and Alan Moore and stuff like that. And like one thing that Stephen King recommends is like writing 2,000 words a day. I find that it didn't work for me. Like, he's like, just get it all down, you get it later. Like whenever I go back, I'm like, this is garbage. I'll just erase all of it. So like what's your process? How do you approach it?
Well, I come from that film and TV background, so I'm very much an outliner. And I know that that's a controversial topic amongst authors is the plotters
Well,
versus the
it seems kind of
pantsers.
yeah, exactly. Seems like kind of a split. Like some people are like, I'm a pantser, and some people like I'm a little OCD, so I have to apply everything out. Like I take all these notes and everything, but everyone has a different approach. What really matters is how good the work is.
Yep. If you can, whatever works, if it works for you, stick with it. If it doesn't work for you, anyone who's listening, I would say like try something, try switching it up because I do know a lot of people um, don't care for outlining or pre-writing because they feel it stifles their creativity. And me personally, I find the outline stage is the most creative part of the process because I can implement big changes, huge swings, and just see how they play out. And you can kind of pants your way through the plotting. And
Yeah, no, yeah, I like that approach. That's kind of what I do. It's like I kind of know where I start and where I'm going, but as I proceed, like all the steps in between, that I can like do on the fly.
And that's great because then you make discoveries along the way, like always leaving yourself open to those cool discoveries where your characters are teaching you about themselves and that they're telling you like, hey, I don't want to go in this direction that you had plotted out for me. That's totally fine. I love that. I love it when that happens.
Yeah,
And but
or you like see a movie or like go for a run or something, and you're like, you know what, I should incorporate. That's an awesome idea, but it's great to have the opening for that.
yep. I think that's so crucial too to have that part of the back of your mind, just working out problems and going for those walks, taking that shower, like just sitting quietly on the couch and just thinking about it, listening to music and just thinking about your characters and your story, and then those scenes just pop into your head from that weird place in your brain that you didn't know was actively churning.
Right.
And that's where so much writing I feel comes from for me.
Like I've had a couple people that they do screenplays either they did before or now they do it, and they say a lot of their stuff like would very easily be translated to like a streaming service or a movie or something. Is that kind of how you feel with your work? Like it'd be very easy to translate?
Uh, so just because I started out in the film TV world, that's how I taught myself to write, and I just did not get any traction in Hollywood for the longest time, and that's when I sort of burnt out on Hollywood, and realized if I'm going to write, I need to get it to an audience somehow, whether it's good or not, who knows? But I feel any part of creation needs to be received at some point by the audience. And so that's when I turned to self-publishing. But for the self-publishing, I was taking old screenplays that didn't sell, that no one was interested in, and converting those to the books. And it was just this wonderful experience of being able to not have that, the in screenplays, the page count, you're always trying to keep the page count to a certain place. and to not have that worry anymore and just be able to expand, to be able to go inside a character's thoughts and backstory and experience it more through their world because in screenplays the point of view is always from the camera's perspective, and so to be able to go into a third person limited. And so I
Yeah, I
mean,
was gonna ask you, do you stick with first person and third person? Do you like go back and forth? What's your approach?
I bounce around a bit. I tend to prefer third person limited uh, because there is a little more it's a little more freeing. I can bounce between different third person limited character point of views within one book. Uh, I've done my first book in my father's basement, all of the interviews that the son does with his serial killer father when the father goes into the stories, those chapters are written first person. I found that like a very enjoyable, flowing kind of form of writing. So I do want to find other stories that I think would lend themselves to that kind of
Did
voice
you
of the
do
first
like
person.
some of it in third person and some in first person, like different chapters?
Yeah,
Is
for that one
that's
in particular.
that's kind of like I fell in that like that's my thing to do. I did that with my last book, and I'm doing that with the new one. But I find a lot of people don't do that. I feel like you like maybe it's because like a lot of people find it difficult to switch characterizations, or I'm not sure. But I know a lot of people they either stick with all first person or all third person.
Same. And I like the switching back and forth. I think it keeps it fresh. I think it keeps the story moving in a very interesting way. And I think it keeps the audience unbalanced in a very good way because it really makes it clear that the first person part of the story is not a reliable narrator because you're going in there all of a sudden. And
Right, it helps
so
you
I
get like
love
a
it.
closer outlook and everything. Like the main thing I've heard about first person, like the downside of it is like it might be a unlikable character, and now you're stuck in his head for like 200 pages, which I can understand that. I always refer to third person or first person as kind of like the shaky cam of like novel writing.
That I love that. Yes. Yes, it is the found footage,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
eventually
Yeah.
someone might become a little nauseous of being stuck in that point of view for too long.
Especially if it's like not that good. All right, man. Well, I don't want to keep you here all day, but what I like to ask people is if I ask them to compare their work, not because you ripped it off, but like if you like this, you'll like my stuff too. So if you like, what would you say yours is kind of in the vein of?
It Intercepts, which is coming out, and should be at bookstores everywhere come May.
Find
Uh,
bookstores everywhere. That's what I say.
a lot of people compare it to like an R-rated Stranger Things.
Okay.
That if that world is
That
interesting to
first
you,
season was great. I think they kind of like lost the tone after that, but the first season is awesome.
think of that if you're mostly at the facility and things are gruesome and violent, then that is the world of Intercepts.
Okay, awesome. So that's a very good recommendation. And so you're saying that you find yourself in fine bookstores anywhere? Are you also going to do any conventions or any like local promotion?
Uh, I'm still working out sort of the scheduling on that. Nothing planned right now, but you'll probably see me pop up at some of these, maybe just as a guest myself, because I'm starting to meet more and more horror authors via social media and making friends in that space, and I just want to sort of pop up and say hi.
Okay. All right. And what would be the best way to check out your stuff? Would it be to like look for it on Amazon? Do you have any other platform that's also like readily available on?
Amazon is just probably the easiest, and if you just search for TJ Payne horror or TJ Payne author, it'll pop up.
Okay. And lastly, do you have anything else you want to throw at the social sphere? Like, you gotta check this out, or you gotta get into this.
Oh man. I don't know. Uh, I think just, you know, everyone should at least do 1 month of Kindle Unlimited and go find some indie horror authors. I know there are a lot of people who don't like Amazon, and that's totally fair. It's everyone's choice, but pay them, just one time, pay the $10 for Kindle Unlimited and go check out some of these authors because they get paid by the page that you read, and just look for indie horror authors, and there'll be splatterpunk, there'll be some that are more traditional, there's so many great ones out there, and just discover them, and then uh, read those people. And I think, yeah, it's just a great way to
I
meet
would
new
say that
voices.
every groundbreaking discovery was written off forever, and then all of a sudden somebody put on like late at night, or the right person checked out, and all of a sudden became the next big thing. Like that, like you look at bands that happen to like Rob Zombie. Everybody's like, "Oh, you're never gonna sign." Then all of a sudden he blew up. Like there's just tons of people where that happened.
Well, and I'm hearing, I can't talk about other people's deals myself, of course, but I've been hearing from other indie horror authors who've been reaching out and saying, hey, after your deal was announced being picked up by a traditional publisher, traditional publishers have reached out to me. Can we talk about like what happened? And so traditional publishers are finding indie authors because the product has been vetted essentially. And they look and they see like the review history and the fans that have already started like congregating. And so it's a really, really cool time for indie horror because it is starting to get that larger platform now. And the indie world is both growing and expanding. And I think it's just like a really cool time to start checking out some of these people.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Everyone should check it out. And like it might be the next big thing. You just haven't seen it yet. Check it out. So, all right, man. So lastly, the best way to get a hold of you is like look for yourself on Amazon. Are you on Facebook or Instagram or
Yep.
like
Facebook,
TikTok for
Instagram,
little
TikTok.
geniuses?
tj.payne.author is my handle at all of those social medias. So tj.payne, Payne dot author.
Okay, awesome. All right, man. So anything else you want to throw out?
Oh, just thank you so much for having me, Dan.
Please like and subscribe before he kills again.